Mhm.
Oh, I got a good shine there. Yan Yan.
Hi guys. So Erin is on vacation, well reserved. And so we have Deanna, who is our coach, and she's to help a lot of teams here in the South Bay, and she coaches our team. And so we love working with her. And so she's going to be our little substitute teacher for today. So I'm gonna just let Deanna take it.
So Aaron asked me to fill in today, and he already had a destined topic. So I'm just going to try to vamp on what he had going. And I know his talk is probably different than my talk on the same topic, but we were the topic du jour is mindset, which is a little bit in line with what we were talking about earlier today. But to be more specific with that mindset, mindset is kind of one of my favorite things to talk about, only because, like I said, in this business, I want to take a second to talk about the fact that we have to remember, and anybody who's newer probably hasn't fully experienced it yet. People that have been around longer definitely do. But the things that we have to be aware of are the fact that we don't have, this is one of the businesses out there that is kind of unforgiving when it comes to our time. And so we are constantly barraged with people needing us. And we have to spend a lot of time protecting that mindset. It can get wearing sometimes. We're I don't know very many. I think about this a lot. I don't know very many other businesses where you're on the way we are. I think maybe some doctors, maybe some therapists, but most people do get to put a boundary on their on time and their off time. And we get, especially now with the way I can tell you that my job changed. My job personally changed in this industry when this thing got more and more technologically advanced and invasive, and the boundary of what we're allowed, or I'm sorry, expected to be tethered to. And so what it's done is it's really invaded our space. And so what I find in coaching people is the struggle with the balance constantly. Balance in, when do I work on my business? When am I available for people? When do I spend time with my family? When do I spend time for myself? And that just wears away at a healthy mindset. And I was thinking today, there is, I think there's a difference between people understanding positive thinking versus a healthy mindset. And it's a fine line. Positive thoughts are definitely one thing. That's a stream of consciousness that goes through your head where you're able to fill that with reading something that's positive reinforcement and stuff like that, versus training your brain to actually live in a positive, in a healthy mindset. And anybody who's been in negative mindset or challenging mindset will know what that is. We've all been there, in probably when we were teenagers. Let's just go there. That's a good space to remember what that feels like. But mindset is in our real estate businesses. I wanted to try to bring this into perspective because there's our personal lives and our business lives, and the way that they intersect is, for us, it's hard to pull those apart sometimes. So, for instance, if we were to look at, if we were to look at our day, and on a hard day, a positive thought versus a healthy mindset are two different things in this. One, I'm going to wake up and have a good day today. If I'm struggling with maybe a fine line in things weighing down on me and starting to pull me in towards a negative mindset, the difference in those two things, I'm just trying to give you guys context. The difference in those two things for me personally, this was what literally went through my head today. I am a human being and I struggle just like you guys do with those things in my business. And being a coach, it almost, to tell you the truth, it's almost like being a mini therapist. And being a mini therapist is like you listen to people all day and all their struggles and all the things that they go through. And to be honest with you, it actually can, it's like a lot of intake. And so I have to go home and process that and clear space for myself so that I can have space to be supportive back. And so I can wake up in the morning and feel heavy sometimes. And in order to have the difference between this is going to be a good day, that's a positive thought, and being weighed down a little bit and feeling some of that weight on the chest and changing that into a healthy mindset is, I'd rather sleep in. I'd much rather flipping sleep in and feel like to hide away from that and just sleep in and give myself some peace. But the better mindset for me is to get up and go be active and walk and give myself, because walking is good meditation for myself. And if I go walk in the morning, not only is my mindset in a much more positive space, but it's also when I'm walking, I'm doing like, they call it kind of like walking meditation. And when you're walking, meditation can be two things. It can be a personal thing, but I spend a lot of time actually working out business problems when I'm doing that. Right. And the mindset goes like this. I literally am standing outside of my body, telling myself, get up.
Hey, what's up?
You know, nobody else is going to move for you today.
Yeah, you're in.
So nobody else is going to get up and take that walk for you. That's personal accountability for that. Nobody else is going to get up and do this for you. Nobody else can do this except you. So I have to physically kind of remove myself from my own brain, stand outside my body and sort of tell myself to do that. So that's the difference between a positive thought and a healthy mindset. So in just trying to give you an example of those two things, the second in real estate, in our world, in our business, how that can translate is when you're sitting in front of your computer and you're having a day where you're just like, it's just hard. It's hard to do this. It's hard to follow through with the things I need to follow through with. You can shift your mindset into,
Okay.
I'm the only
Oh, is this the
person
same patient?
who's crossing over right now.
We both tried once.
We got a crossover going on.
Kind of give it. Lauren, go ahead and mute yourself.
Okay. So, the mindset on that, stop for a second. And what I try to tell people is this: it is perfectly okay to give yourself 10 seconds to go, all right, I'm in that space. Take a deep breath and reset. And you can say to yourself, you know what? Nobody is going to make these calls for me today except me. I have to do this. You know, my business is not going to move forward. I'm not going to find that listing appointment if I don't make this call, you know, and it's personal accountability to be able to do that, right? You're not kicking yourself literally in your own ass. You're just not doing that, but you're taking a breath and resetting, and it's training the brain, right? One of the things we've talked about in our own coaching sessions amongst our group is the idea of relearning how not to measure forward. Measuring forward is really difficult on the self. Measuring forward is putting a huge goal out there sometimes that is you're measuring against that, and you feel like you're failing a lot of times because you're not actually measuring up to that thing. And a really interesting mindset shift to try to practice is to look back. You still have the goal out there of, hey, I want to have blah, blah, blah. I want to get 3 homes sold this quarter. This is how I'm going to do it. Okay. But what you do is you measure backwards at the end of the first week of what you're doing, and you go, wait a minute, I didn't get 3 homes sold this week. That's okay. I still have a whole quarter to do it. But what did I do this week to make steps towards getting that done? Okay. Well, I got through blah, 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 blah in my database. I sent out XYZ, postcards. I did blah, 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 blah of my process that I need to be getting done. Little wins of my process that I'm doing. Now, measuring backwards adds up and gives you support in that positive mindset, in that healthy mindset of I am moving forward. If you measure too far forward, it's a void. There's a big black hole there. And you're looking at it like, I didn't do it. Right? I mean, can you see that? Can you actually visualize that? Like, I didn't actually reach forward and cross the gap because it's such an unmeasurable gap of future things to be done. So you're setting yourself up in a unsupported mindset when you're measuring too far forward like that. Practice reaching back and measuring backwards and see what that does to support your healthy mindset. So let's say I want to lose a bunch of weight, or I want to build muscle, or lose some inches, or do something like that. If I go to the end of my week and I go like this, I didn't lose 20 pounds this week. That's what girls do. I don't know why we always go for 20 and we think we're going to lose them in 1 week. It's so dumb. It's just how the girl brain works. It's dumb. But we do. And so we're always like, I failed. That's just feeding a negative mindset. But if you measure backwards and you go, I ate healthy, I drank a crap ton of water, I took X amount of walks, and you know what I did? I ended up actually, my summer shorts feel a little bit better on me this week. And if I do that again next week, I'm going to be in a better spot. And I'm not so much worried about necessarily numbers as I am, how am I feeling about all of this? And I'm measuring backwards towards this goal. Now, at the end of a couple of weeks, I'll have lost 20 pounds, but I'll have a much better mindset towards what is happening there. How am I bringing that process forward? Right. So in our real estate world, one of the things that we're terrible at, we're so awful at, is giving ourselves wins. We pound ourselves all the time on all the shit we're not doing. We, at the end of the week, will add our week up with all the stuff we didn't do. And then we just go, ugh. What we don't do is look at our week and look at all the stuff we did do.
I've got a hunch that's not necessarily just real estate.
True. But we're terrible at it. We really are. And then you know what else we do? To back it all up, to make it even worse, we go like this. We sit there on a Friday night, most of us. I'm not going to make tons of fun. I mean, we have social lives, but we'll go like this with our phones. Scroll on the internet, on Instagram or on Facebook or something, and we'll be looking at what everybody else did And we'll go, oh, I didn't do that, and I didn't do that, and I didn't do that, and I didn't do that. And there goes my mindset,
Yeah, I didn't make 20 grand while I was sleeping.
right?
I love, that's my favorite post. I see it all over.
So
Hey, 30 grand while you're sleeping.
put that down. Put that down. You know, do something more constructive with, if you find yourself doing that, this is the worst thing ever. I always talk about, if you do have a problem with this, and this is meant to suck mindset, I do want to talk about that for a second, because this sucker is meant to control mindset. It wants to, because it's meant to sell you things. It's meant to make you feel bad about yourself so that you will go buy something to make yourself feel better. Or subscribe to something to make yourself feel like you need something. Okay. It's an advertising machine. Okay. We're advertising to each other all damn day about how my life is amazing. Okay. What I'm doing is amazing. So we, more than anybody, because what we want to do is follow real estate agents. We want to follow real estate agents for two things. What the hell are they up to that I'm not doing? A, and B, I need to find listings. I need to find inventory for my people, for my buyers, for my sellers. I need to know what's going on out there. So I'm going to follow agents because they're always posting crap like pocket listings and coming soons that I need to know about. So this is why I have more people in my feed that are real estate agents than my sphere does. My clients are not following 1,000 real estate agents. I am. So they're not going through in their minds what I go through in my mind, because they're not being fed 1,000 real estate agents doing all these wonderful things the way I am. Okay. So one of the things to control your mindset with the social is, especially if that gets to you, is to teach yourself. I always say, teach yourself to look at Instagram or Facebook, whatever it is, as, you know, it's got grids, right? And the grids are little squares. And the squares, I say, call it feeding the box. My job on Instagram as a real estate agent is to feed the box. I need to take something and feed the box. I do not need to take from Instagram and feed myself the negative that's coming off of that, the feelings that come off of that, of making me attacking my mindset. Okay. My only job as a real estate agent is to actually feed the box. So as what we talked about this week, I have a new listing. My job is to put my listing out there. So I need to go on Instagram, feed the box, put it in the box, which means post it and get off, you know, put it down and go do something constructive. So you guys can practice that to control mindset. And why? Because nobody is in more control of mindset than you are. I had a client this week call me and tell me that he had another agent call him and just rattle him about I have a buyer letter that he sent to the neighborhood. Another agent calls him up and is like, how dare you send that to my client? You know, you can't do that, blah, blah, blah. And he did everything right. Letter said, if you have an agent, have your agent call me. Had the disclaimer on the bottom, if you've got an agent, please disregard the letter. He did everything right. That agent was threatened by the fact this agent was doing a good job putting stuff out into the farm. Okay. And he was threatened because this other agent was doing things in quote unquote his territory. And that's what he said. This is my territory. What's the answer to that?
Yeah, well, what is the answer? You say a
Do you have an
dumb statement like
agency?
that? It's
Do
just
you have
like,
a signed agency on everybody on every street in that neighborhood? No, it's nobody's territory. There's no territory. We don't have territories.
yeah, it's a
You know, and if
territory
I
of,
did everything
yeah.
right, you know, I
You
have
pay
every right
taxes.
to be out
It's
there
called the
doing that.
U.S. territory.
Right, exactly.
Citizen. Yeah, I am right.
but he got rattled. He got rattled because this guy called him and like really got up on him. And I had to tell him, I had to say to him, I said, you know, buddy, take a deep breath. He's trying to control you. And he's doing it right now because you are rattled. And this is mindset. He's owning your mind right now. And if you let that go, I know you're angry and I know you're upset and I know you're feeling like he's like literally like he was like peeing on a tree, you know, it was like the one guy was peeing on the other guy's tree, you know, and it was like, look,
Talk to the cat.
like, yeah, you are in control of that. You're giving all of this energy to this other person right now. And he wants that, you know, and if you just let it go, he's not getting what he wants. And you're spending so much energy.
A bully.
Yeah. You're spending so much energy allowing that to happen to you. And the only person in the whole wide world that has control over that right now is you. You. He doesn't, but he does right now because you're giving it to him, right? That's mindset.
Who was the agent, Deanna, that said you're on my territory?
I'm not telling. It's the whole East Manhattan. It's the Liberty Village fight. You know, that place is too small.
My territory.
The Liberty Village fight. There's so many of them over there. They all fight with each other. But the point is,
Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, on one scale, it does work, right?
Yeah.
If you are actually the owner of, anyways.
But-
On the scale of countries, right? Like Russia goes into Ukraine and says, this is my territory. It's one thing versus an agent saying it. So
Yeah, but-
it's a little humorous. I found a little humorous. Sorry. Yeah.
the truth in our world is nobody is anybody's client until we have an agency disclosure.
Now there's a contest, and that's right. And that contest is determined in the appropriate chambers, right? So court. It's called.
We have things we're supposed to do, you know, to tip the hat and be proper about how we do them. And if we're
Ethical, right?
yes,
Yeah.
and if we do those right, then we're doing the job correctly. If it's getting under somebody's skin, take it as a compliment. Don't get threatened, you know, but the point of the mindset game is he's allowing the other person to control him,
Yeah.
his feelings, his mindset, his energy. I said all of that energy that you're spending right now could be spent attracting, you know, good things to you instead of sending all this negative energy out. And you
Fear comes in different flavors, right? Either it's from
Yeah.
a bully or it's from, you know, from something we get in the mail, whatever. It's, yeah, fear is definitely a mindset challenge.
yeah, just say thank you and move on, you know. And so any of you in your day, Dave, do you have anything that you've ever come across where something's challenged mindset in the business?
Well, I mean, I'm primarily exist in the mortgage space, and I will tell you that I get people call me all the time and say, "Hey, you know, why did you call my client?" And I'll say, "Well, what do you mean, like your client?" I mean, my advice is just push back extra hard and say, "Look, you have that client call me and tell me that they're your client, and I'll never call them again."
Right.
But that's not the way it works. I mean, competition is healthy in this business across, whether it's real estate, whether it's commercial, what, you know, I mean, if there isn't competition, you got nothing.
But
Right.
it's not going to stop you from doing your business.
Absolutely. I laugh at people. I mean, and it happens, you know, once or twice a year, you know, but by the same token, I mean, I've lived in the same neighborhood for 23 years in what I consider to be a pretty nice house. I can tell you that it happens again once or twice a year where somebody within a 3-block radius of me will list with another agent, even though they know damn good and well I'm right here, because I talk to everybody in this neighborhood. I watch people's dogs. I help walk people's kids to school, and they'll still list with somebody else. And that does sometimes cause you really to kind of look at yourself and go, how to fuck that up? You know what I mean? Like these are
Yeah.
people I've known.
That's a good one. And I come across that too, because people do beat themselves up with that. And what I tell them is fine, do that. Give yourself 5 minutes with that and say, because I have people in my world, my clients, my real estate agents that will just go down a dark hole and stay there. They will stay there for weeks. I lost that. I can't believe I lost that. My neighbor and blah, blah, blah. And they just go down this dark hole and they stay there. And I'm like, I can't believe you're going to stay there for 3 weeks and stay in this spot, just paralyzed by this.
I feel like if your mentality is, when that happens, if your mentality isn't, I'm going to go find two more.
Right.
If that's not your mentality, you should probably go to work for the phone company or do something else, because if you don't have that and look, it comes down to money, right? And you look at it and go, oh man, I just lost $35,000. Okay, well, the beauty of this business is you can go find 2 clients and make 80.
Right.
And that just, you have to be able to find that inside of yourself. And also, talking about the gentleman you were talking about previously, if you, I mean, I've gotten to the point, I've been doing this for 23 years, where on the real estate side, I showed clients last weekend some homes, and at the end of for the first time, and at the end of the third house we looked at, I said, I want you to come over to my car. I want to show you something. And I pulled out that exclusive agency agreement. And I said, look, I don't want to put any pressure on you guys, but this basically protects me. And I've had people that I've showed, 20 houses in the past too, walk into an open house and sign a contract with an agent sitting open house, which is why people do it, right? But I said, I just really want to feel like we have a partnership here in finding you the right home. And of course, it's always something you're really hesitant about, or I used to be, because I felt like I'm trying to pigeonhole these people. But now, if they would have said, Dave, I'm not going to sign it, I would have probably said, you know what, then I'm going to have to ask you to find another agent. Like, you have to get that agency agreement signed early on in the process, so they understand that and I tell them, I'm your guy, you're in good hands. And I know Mark's heard me say that probably before. That is my go-to. I'm your guy, you're in good hands.
Yeah. Yeah. We always talk in this group about knowing what your value is, so that you're able to articulate that value, so that when you are pressed with that, you can easily be able to say, this is why, I have this, and this is my differentiators, and this is what sets me apart.
Right. But I come from an old marketing background. I worked for Anheuser-Busch actually for years. And one of what I learned early on is, if you say something enough times, people will believe it. And I know that I have clients that are in conversation with other people and say, Dave's my guy, I'm in good hands.
Yeah.
I mean, if I don't say it 10 times a day, I'm not doing my job.
Right. That's exactly right. And so to that point, what you were saying earlier is it's the confidence piece of it, for one, and that all comes back to mindset too. But I think the piece of our business that is really hard for us is how we get pushed and pulled and pushed and pulled and pushed and pulled, and people here know a lot. People get because they don't have that agency signed, people will think they're working with somebody and they'll run off with somebody else, and that just plays so hard on them, and they'll just stop everything, and they'll just just stop working. For instance, like the day that sign goes up on your street, and you're like, I hear this from my clients, and they'll go like this, like, oh my God, that was my listing. And the first thing I'll say to them is, what did you do to get that listing? And they'll say, well, what do you mean? And I'll say, well, did you knock the neighborhood? Are you farming the neighborhood? Do your neighbors know you're an agent? And it's funny, and it's tough. I do this tough love thing with them, and they're like, no, no, no. And it's like, okay, well, what makes you think that you're entitled to that listing until you're doing the work to create that agency, right? So don't bemoan what you didn't have. Go through your database right now. Nobody knows your neighborhood better than you do. You live there. You know your neighborhood better than the next guy does. You know it better than that listing agent did. Go and find who you want your neighbor to be. You know that there's a listing coming on your street right now. Go sell the damn house. You got the other side of that commission right now, and turn it into a positive for yourself.
And
Don't bemoan what didn't happen. That wasn't yours. There's
truthfully,
another
every time that's happened to me, I've been able to reflect back on it and say, and you know what, I was asleep at the switch somehow.
Right.
And I do think it becomes quite empowering when you're able to just basically own a mistake and move to the next two clients, and every time I lose one, I just say, well, I'm gonna go find two more.
Right. And if you can go back to your business systems and say, where's the hole in my system? Where's the hole in my system? And you can reflect back and go, all right, well, you know what? I forgot to get my mailer out, or I lagged on that, or, this is where I'm falling off. I need to get back on that. I stopped calling my neighborhood. I stopped asking my neighbors for, I dropped my pie campaign. I dropped whatever it is you can track back to and go, I need to do this again. I need to get back on the saddle. And you can track these things if you're on top of your business systems.
And sometimes it's also good to understand that it's not, it may not have been anything you did wrong. I mean, it could be somebody's in-law, nephew, cousin, best friend just got into the business. And I mean, in 23 years, I've lost 20 deals to that.
But
there's nothing I could have done to prevent that. And that's just something you got to deal with. But what I tell people is whenever I lose a deal to somebody's in-law, nephew, cousin, or best friend, I go look to be two other clients, in-law, cousin, nephew, or best friend.
Go circle prospect that thing, go circle prospect that thing.
Yeah.
There's nothing that says you can't, and it's give yourself 5 minutes. You can stay in that spot for 5 minutes and just do your all right. Deep breath, pick it up. And like you said, there's two more clients out there. I'm going to go find them. And it's training the brain to do that. Like I stand outside myself, watching myself sleep, and I go, get out of bed. Because I walk a minimum of 5 miles every day. And if I don't do that, I'm not in the right mindset. And there are days I do not want to do it. I walk in the rain. I walk in the snow when I go to other towns. And I have to get myself out of bed to do it. And I literally have to tell myself to do it. So on days when you're like, it's rough, I am having a bad day with this, but you have to get yourself, stand apart, look back on yourself and go find those two clients. Go find them. And it's training the brain. That's different than a positive thought. That's what I wanted to make sure that we all learned today and remembered is positive thoughts are different than developing a healthy mindset. A healthy mindset is like building a muscle. It's like you do this thing over and over and over again repetitively. And at one point, it becomes kind of muscle memory for yourself. And at first, like with most things, you kind of have to say things out loud and do counts. Like, oh my God, when I first got on the elliptical, when I was ginormous, and I would be like, counting down, literally counting down, like my first 10 minutes on that thing. And I'd be like down to the last minute, just going, oh my God, 30 seconds, go, 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 go. Couldn't stand it. After a while, it got better, and after a while, you don't even think about it. So it's like everything starts with habit. It's creating the process of this is what I have to do to change the mindset. So you're at a place, Dave, where you've done this long enough where you're like, all right, think back to when you were younger and you had your first challenges and what did you have to do to teach yourself that? We didn't always know these things. We had to develop the day we said, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to live like this anymore. I'm not going to think like this anymore. I'm not going to let this thing get to me anymore. I'm going to beat this.
Well,
I'm going to own this.
the other thing that is important, and I know Mark asked, what do you do? I mean, with regard to somebody calling you and trying to bully you, and you know, if you fired or called somebody, the reason that guy is calling you and in a menacing way is because it works for him.
Yeah.
And so I've always said the way to beat a bully is punch him right in the nose. And so to me, like if somebody ever called me in a manner like that, I probably would have gone ahead and handwritten and stamped 5 envelopes with that very same flyer, put his address on it and mailed it to him 5 days in a row. And you know what I mean? And then said, okay, so just so he understands that phone call to me isn't going to make things better.
No,
for me.
yeah. I feel like, situations like that are, yeah, it's whatever it's gonna do. Somewhere though, there has to be a release at the end of letter 5, you're done. You're not gonna do them for, 500 days, but there's
For
a
sure.
release at some point where you're like, the control of this is now mine.
Yeah,
You know.
I mean, you can be passive aggressive or you can be aggressive aggressive, but at the end of the day, you don't act scared at all when that kind of thing happens. And like I said, I've had it happen, in the middle of a real estate transaction where somebody has called me and said, hey, I think I'm getting screwed on this loan. And then I say, okay, well, let me take a look at it. Yeah, you are. And they'll say, okay, well, can you do it? And they'll flip the loan to me and I'll talk to both realtors and everything will be fine. But then the other loan officer will call me and say, what do you think you're doing? And I'll be like, well, client called me and they asked me to write them a loan. So that's what I'm doing. And you can't do that. Well, I can, and I'm gonna, and if you don't like it, maybe you should have thought about how you priced the loan out originally. Right. So, I mean, but you just can't back off even a tiny bit on that kind of thing.
No, and there's another thing that I know that a bunch of the clients that I run across, they have a really hard time of falling into the comparison trap, where they spend a lot of time comparing what they're doing against their competition. And they go like, oh my God, like the worst thing that happens in my world is the time of year when all the awards come out. And they all start like, oh, I'm not, this guy's over there saying he's number one and he's really not number one. And that one's over there saying blah, blah, blah. And, and they're all in the top 1% right now of America's best, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, guys, run your race, put your numbers up on the wall of what you want to achieve this year for you, for your business. Run that race and do not worry about all of that, because at the end of the day, if you end up with your number of your happy clients and the people that are referring you business because of the work you did, you're creating your business moving forward to the next year, to the next projection of what you've sketched out for yourself based on your business model of what you're trying to do. Do not worry about the next guy. Okay. In our market, there are 4,000 real estate transactions that happen annually. Okay. We have 4,200 registered real estate agents. I think that's counting appraisers and lenders with our real estate board. Okay. So that's licensees, right? 4,200 people. The top 3 agents in our market have not cracked 200 transactions each. Okay. That's 600 of 4,000. Wipe those off, the top 3 agents. That's a hell of a lot of business left over for everybody else. Most of the 4,200, let's scrape off the appraisers, scrape off the lenders, scrape off the part-timers. There's a lot of business to be had. So put your numbers up on the board, put them in front of you, run your race, and don't worry about everybody else. This is your race. And at the end of the day, at the end of the year, if you hit your number, you celebrate that and do not worry, because your clients, your happy clients, your referrals, your business is going to get you the next step. You're going to keep moving forward. Okay, everybody on January 1 in this business starts at 0. We all start back at 0, the way we count. We count our transactions at 0 on Jan 1. We count our sales volume back at 0 on Jan 1. We have a great equalizer on Jan 1. So yeah, there's a method to the madness of building this and being the top dogs, in the business every year. But you will get there. You will get to where you want to go with your business if you set your numbers up there and you work your numbers, run your race. So
If you're number 100 in the South Bay, you're still making a pretty good living.
hell yeah, you
I
are.
mean, the top 3 are going to be the top 3. But
Yes.
as Deanna, I 23 years, I've never had my picture in the Beach Reporter.
There's
But
people.
I
Yes.
invite anybody to come hang out in my $3 million house.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the thing. It's the attitude of gratitude for that. You come at everything with a gratitude of the abundance that you have. And if you're going after the numbers you have and your intent is to serve those clients to the best of your ability from what it is are your core values and what you actually provide, you're doing that job and you're doing it the way you want to do it. And you're at the end of the day, you're proud of that. And you are making that living. That's a good life. That is a really good life. And you should be proud of that. So just the comparison thing is honestly one of the worst ways to go. Run your race, and I really think that helps a lot with the realignment of the mindset. One of the exercises we've done in this group, our little group off to the side, is we've tried to spend a little time working on what it means to be successful personally and individually for ourselves, and sitting down and actually writing that out. And it's funny, when you really do that, it's not always the money, it's different spaces in your life, things that you're trying to accomplish, and that will change for you over time. But if you write that out and you start to measure your success based on what it is you're trying to achieve, health and getting my kids through college and, trying to spend real time with my family and trying to, take care of my aging parents and do just these different things that everybody's got different things they want to do. Everybody has different things they want to do. That's measures of success. One person, the person who wrote this book that we were working on, that we got the ideas from, was like, I want to be able to live my life without wearing a watch. That's a measure of success to this person. I want to be able to go on vacation without worrying about a budget. That was a measure of success for that person. So everybody's measure of success is different, but if you can line out, 7 to 10 different things and then put them up there and work towards those things, it's a different mindset of what is this thing that we're working towards. And when you realign with those things, every week or month, it's a really important touchstone to come back to. And then you're staying in your lane, you're running your own race, and you're staying away from that comparison life, which is a dangerous life, because you're never going to live up to it in a comparison life, and it ruins the mindset. So it's a fun exercise. Anybody else? Sharing? No? It's a good place to stay, guys. You're gonna, we were talking about this a little earlier today, is picking your peer group, I think, is important too, and what you're hanging around. Awesome. to be definitely hang around successful people, hang around different ways in which people choose success. I have people that measure success very differently than I do in life. And in a way, some of it is stuff like I will never, ever jump off a flippin' open face, like hillside of some sort with like a little tiny parachute and say that that is my measure of success, is that I did that. Like, nope, not my thing. I'm not an extreme sports person. I'm like, no, I'll watch you do that. That's not me. Other people get a huge thrill off of that, right? I'm not that person. Might skydive, but just little things that people feel successful. I was able to do that. I got myself to that point. I did that. That was a measure of success for me. Other people that I know are like, they love to shop. You know, I cannot shop. Shopping freaks me out. So it's not important to me to go into a Louis Vuitton store and go buy a bunch of stuff. It's very important to some of my friends. That's a measure of success for them. It's great to be around people that measure success differently, but be around successful people. And why? Because what motivates them? How do they stay disciplined? What's the mindset? How do they keep themselves in that mindset? You don't have to pick and choose to emulate all of those things for yourself. It's interesting to learn what makes people tick and why. And from that, you get inspired. And from that, you also go, ooh, that's something I'll never do. That's a way I'll never think. And that's okay, you know, but there is a common thread. And there's a common thread of people saying, I'm in charge of this. Nobody else is in charge of this except me. And that's a powerful thing to understand, is that you're in charge of that. So on your hardest days, you get to go, deep breath. I'm in charge of this. You know, I'm in charge of what's making me angry right now. I'm in charge of what's making me sad right now. I'm in charge of deciding to be happy right now. You know, and that helps us a lot when we are juggling a 24/7 life like we do, you know, and people pushing and pulling on us all the time. So anyway, thanks for a deep conversation today, guys. Those are always fun to have.
Thanks, Deanna.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Big
Deanna.
topic.
Yeah, it's a great topic.
Thanks so
Have a
much.
wonderful- Stay strong.
Bye.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.